You only need to drive up the main road north from Goma to see the extent of this latest Rwandan tragedy. An estimated 13,000 refugees have died in the last week, mostly from cholera, and the bodies line the street. Some are wrapped in rush matting, many others are just lying where they died on the way to the refugee camps. The mass graves in Goma are now full.
I've been up this road 4 times this week, and the situation today is worse than at any time since the refugees arrived. The aid agencies hope they've reached the bottom of the abyss, that things will get better as food and water are hopefully sorted out. But today, for mile after mile, there are more corpses along this road than ever before.
Muningi, just outside Goma, is where many of the million refugees first stopped on the way to the official camps. The sick, the dying and the dead remain. Over 300 died here this morning. And in the middle of this hospital and graveyard, a team of nurses are desperately trying to save the dying. There's a scramble to set up drips of rehydration fluids and salts. The families of the patients have to hold the sacks. Even after a week of airlifts and appeals, essential help has still not reached Muningi.
Well, it's crazy. Every day it seems to getting worse. Many deaths already this morning, more than yesterday. It's really horrific here.
If you get the hydration packs to people, can you save them?
Yes, of course, but it's not only to give the hydration, but... Oh, Mama!
Get a hydration pack in a minute.
Well, when you get the hydration pack, you can save them, but also you have to look after them. All of them are running out. Well, one is not enough to save a life, so it's really very difficult. Only the strong are surviving, you always see it, and the weak they're dying.
And how much water do you need here?
Well, so at least we have 1,000 people here in this camp, so 10,000 litres.
And how much are you getting?
Well, yesterday we distributed 5,000, so half of them.
But we are just outside Goma here. We can hear the planes from the airport just down the road here. And aid is still not reaching you in sufficient quantities.
No, not here. Not here yet. Can you do something for me?
Sure. She broke off the interview to attend to yet another seriously ill child and asked if we could help.
You can't find a vein at all.
She tried to find a vein strong enough to take the drip, first in his arm, then his neck. There was none. When we left, the little boy's mother was trying to make him drink the rehydration fluid, and Yeneke was trying to save yet another life. We drove north, following the refugees to Kibumba. This is to be an official camp, though only about half the 300,000 here will be able to stay. It's a quite inappropriate site, an area of hard volcanic rock with no water nearby. The Nyiragongo volcano towers over the thousands of makeshift shelters. It's currently spewing ash into the air and mixes at dusk with the refugees' fires to form a choking smoke. Cholera has spread through Kibumba. Bodies are piled by the roadside, waiting for burial in mass graves in the national park near the volcano. But at least a start has been made here with food and water, though a week into the tragedy, far more help is urgently needed.
It's definitely not a place to have a camp for 300,000 people, so what we're going to look into today, we started, and tomorrow, is if we can move all of the people, or at least half of them, or 200,000. Right now there are 300,000 people here in a place with no water, with no facilities, and we can't even dig for graveyards to bury the dead. So you can imagine...
Why not?
Well, because it's volcanic rock, and we have now identified a few places on this side of the road, which is the national park, where we can dig tomorrow to bury the dead. But digging for water or digging for latrines, which is also very important for sanitary reasons, is just out of the question.
The mood in the camps may be bleak and desperate, but at Goma Airport, the aid operation is at long last being stepped up. Today, aid agencies were talking bravely of having reached rock bottom and climbing out of the abyss. They were cheered by the news that a record number of aid planes were coming in today, and that the road link from Uganda was established, though the food arriving is still only half that required, and there's a chronic shortage of trucks. There's a further problem of tension between those providing the aid. Yesterday, the United States embarked on an unsuccessful airdrop. 6 tons landed off target near a camp where 250 tons had already been delivered by truck. The UN World Food Programme was not amused.
We have delivered 700 tons of food to the Qatari refugee population. There are other concentration of refugees. We didn't get any assistance so far. Why the drop took place where we were already delivering food, I still don't understand. I still have to find out.
So was the American action actually unhelpful then, because it took trucks away that you could have used for other jobs?
Yes, in that regard, yes.
The US action didn't impress this team from Oxfam either. They'd arrived at the airport last night with equipment to provide bulk clean drinking water, vital to stop the spread of cholera.
I think that the priorities that we've all got are to deliver the food and to get clean water into these camps, and also obviously to provide medical care too, although the food and the water has got to be got in first. Whatever goes on in this operation that is not contributing in the most efficient way possible with the limited resources we've got available to that end, if it's not contributing to that, then it is not an appropriate way of operating, and it is not meeting the priorities here.
For the moment, before Oxfam's clean water arrives, the refugees at Kibumba face a lengthy daily walk. The nearest clean stream is 15 miles away, and they're becoming increasingly weak, though some food is distributed here by the Red Cross, less than a pound of rice, beans and oil per person. It's distributed village by village with remarkable order. The structures of the old exiled government are still in place and will presumably remain so when many of the refugees are moved further north to a better camp at Kitale. That is, if they go to Kitale. As conditions worsen in this camp, there are increasing pressures for them to return home. Though as Hutus, some of them responsible for the massacres of Tutsis, many are frightened to return to a Tutsi-led Rwanda.
The refugees in Kibumba face a simple choice that for many could mean the difference between life and death. Whether to press on into exile towards Kitale with its promise of food and water, or turn round and go back into Rwanda where there is food rotting in the fields. It may seem a simple issue, but it's provoked a furious debate among the aid agencies.
The border between Zaire and Rwanda was finally reopened yesterday, and this morning a trickle of refugees were returning home, down the track where 1 million fled just a week ago. Those I talked to said they were apprehensive, but their fear of the new government was less than their fear of life and death in the camps. This morning about 50 an hour were crossing, according to the UN monitors, encouraged by a whole host of officials hoping the numbers would increase.
Obviously this is a very volatile situation. Things could change. We have tried to look a little down the road, and we believe that the situation, certainly in the near term, medium term, is stable enough, is safe enough to encourage these people to go back home. After all, as I've said, the conditions here are so dreadful that we need to do something. We believe the best way is for these people to get back home.
But there's no sign as yet that large numbers of refugees are prepared to leave the camps. And tonight, Oxfam warned that it could be dangerous if it were assumed that many will do so. Many are far too weak to move.
People are still flooding along this road, the road here to this camp. They're still flooding on another 50 kilometres or so to the next camp in search of a reasonable level of relief aid and assistance. There's no way that we can ask them to turn round when they're dropping dead on the road already.
Meanwhile, the cholera epidemic continues. By the side of the road in Kibumba, we saw the body of a little boy left among the dead. His eyes suddenly fluttered. He was actually alive. We told the aid workers and he was rushed for treatment. After a week like this, one grasps at any sign of hope. And one can only hope that the aid will now be sufficient both sides of the border as refugees face their new dilemma of whether to stay or go.